Hello everybody and welcome to another video. No, I don't want to talk about what happened yesterday. I don't know what you're talking about. Everything was totally normal. Everything's the same. Today, we're going to be doing some more news about Guild Wars 2. In particular, I've got an assortment of things to do with the storytelling in both the existing game and an upcoming patch, as well as some stuff to do with Heart of Thorns storytelling also. And then also a pretty interesting small data mine from that shaman about the Super Adventure Box. So I guess we can start on that. I think I explained pretty well before what the deal is with Super Adventure Box before, and the fact that it didn't return for this April 1st, and the fact that it doesn't look like they're necessarily developing it right now. Well, there was something pulled out of the client, which that shaman waited to release to the community until today, April 2nd, so that people wouldn't freak out when Super Adventure Box didn't return on April 1st, and also so that people didn't think it was a joke. No, there actually has been a model found in the client of this giant bug. I'll have some images of it rolling right there. And this thing looks enormous. It's quite clearly a Super Adventure Box style enemy. I suppose there's a very, very small chance that this is not being added through Super Adventure Box, but some other part of the game, some other update not to do with it, but those chances are very slim. And so this at least proves one thing to us. It proves that someone out there at ArenaNet is actually working on Super Adventure Box or Super Adventure Box related content. One of the interesting things I saw in the comments on Reddit was people wondering, okay, now that we've seen something has been leaked through the client, Super Adventure Box related, with the other two Super Adventure Box related updates we had, which was the original one and then the back to school release, how early was it we started to see assets from those be leaked into the client before they ultimately drop? And so I'll give you guys those stats. That shaman said that it was in January we saw the very first Super Adventure Box related stuff for the original release, so that's a couple of months before April 1st, then April 1st came and then it blew everyone's minds and it was this huge massive thing. So that was January we first saw something leak, and then for the back to school release, it was about a month after we started picking up things in the client that then the back-to-school release actually happened. So that can make people feel kind of optimistic, I guess. Oh, look, it was a matter of months before we finally got the update for the first release, almost less than a month for the second. That could mean in a couple of months we're going to get Super Adventure Box 3 and World 3, and it's going to be amazing. Maybe we'll have to hold our tongues for a little while. This could just be a one-off. We have seen things that have appeared in the client and have taken months to end up in the game or never in the game at all. Think about some of those crazy weapons we've seen before, or the paper bag headpieces. Those were incredible, and yet ArenaNet never sold them on the gem store. They never really appeared. So not only does this mean that Super Adventure Box may not be coming soon, it might not appear in the game ever. So I'm going to put a bit of a sour side to that, but hey, this is kind of cool that at least they're working on something related to it. Interestingly enough, I found that no one was really talking about what this bug could be. Everyone was just going into discussion about Super Adventure Box and how Josh Foreman was developing it once again. I actually must say, and I feel like this has to be said at some point, I feel terrible for the other devs who were on Josh's team working with him on Super Adventure Box. Like, Josh gets all the credit. Everyone just singles him out, and him alone, and I do not deny, like, he would have been a massive driving force for Super Adventure Box, and without him we probably wouldn't have seen it at all, right? And the man probably did a lot of work, but I feel terrible for all the other people that were working on Super Adventure Box and they just kind of have to sit in his shadow, because apparently the thing to do is, if you're in the Guild Wars 2 community, just single out this one guy and say that he's your hero, and that's that. It's actually a really good example, in my opinion, of communities being kind of narrow-minded or narrow-sighted when it comes to how things are developed. You know, they just pin it all on this one guy, and it's like, oh, come on, what about the other Super Adventure Box developers? Sad face. Anyway, the bug, what could it be? To me, it looks like perhaps some kind of a mount, some kind of vehicle. Don't forget, of course, that because we haven't seen this already, unless they're going to have some kind of super tribulation mode where there's a bunch of new enemies all over the place, we're probably not going to see this guy dropped into the existing worlds. He's probably going to be in one of the new worlds. So can we tell anything about the theme of the new world? Wasn't it like some kind of a cavey, undergroundy, supposed looking world? Well, not really either. To me, it reminds me a little bit of the Striders from Morrowind. Maybe it'll be some kind of fast travel system thing. Maybe it will fly around, the weird long tendrils coming out. I don't know whether those will be represented in game or it's just the way that it's been mined out. In any case, kind of cool thing, and I'll mention it now so that I don't have to do one huge video on data mining and then brush past these things. So this next thing I want to talk about is a couple of days old now. Something we have mentioned on the channel already, but has been elaborated on significantly. This is a red post from Bobby Stein on the forums, where he's talking about, quite officially, about the changes to the personal story. So I've already explained this to you guys. Feature Pack 2, ArenaNet made big changes, not necessarily good changes, to the personal story. They gutted it. They removed a whole chunk of it, our worst fear section of the personal story, which, to be honest, and in all fairness to them, the worst fear part of the story was pretty much a pure filler arc. But it then did touch on some serious stuff like where the orb came from and how we met Largo's character who would join us on our adventures for the rest of the story. Not only did they cut this out with Feature Pack 2, but then they also reshuffled a bunch of the story stuff around. I wasn't very offended by much stuff in Feature Pack 2 at all. I really appreciate the value of making those early areas of the game stronger and the leveling experience stronger, and I do think they made it stronger. However, this really offended me with Feature Pack 2, that they so significantly damaged what was already a damaged personal story. And they haven't really explained very much of why they did this. It just sounds like they weren't particularly happy with this arc. Perhaps when they were, changing the way that the personal story rewarded you with stuff. Obviously, rewards are much better now, and everything has its own set reward. Maybe when they were looking at this, they thought that we were getting too many rewards for personal story steps. Maybe they felt that it didn't quite gel in with their, 1 to 80 progression, because then they could have, a bunch of story steps unlock at level 10, then 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and this was like an outlier. It would have been like a 9th chapter. Whatever, they felt it didn't gel, and they left it. I wonder whether when they removed it, they, at the time, were never gonna bring it back. And then there was a big outrage about it, and their plans changed, or they always knew that now that they were working on Heart of Thorns, they were bringing back the character artists, so the people who do the voices for our player characters, they're all back recording lines for Heart of Thorns, and since they have them, they've decided to re-record some audio for this arc. This arc was not just a bit of an outlier, I suppose, in terms of being filler or in terms of the new reward system, but it actually had some issues ArenaNet weren't happy with. 2 days ago, Bobby Stein gave us a lot more information. He says that, to put it simply, they're reactivating the My Greatest Fear story steps and putting Chapter 8 content back in its original position in the overall narrative. So this is the other big change, where they shuffled around the end stuff, where we then had to, instead of having a clear progression into ore, we had this weird mechanic with the submarine and everything was shifted in an odd way. They're returning everything to its original order too. He says also that we are making some minor improvements to the content, like writing and re-recording new voiceover for a few key characters. They're going to be tweaking some camera moves, updating select art assets, and more. I think it's very easy to read what I just said and get excited that there's going to be big changes. I talked to Matt on the podcast today, which won't be releasing until Sunday, about the idea that we could have this one chapter, Chapter 8, right near the end of the game, where all of a sudden the quality is of Living World quality, and there are no more of these clunky little dialogue cutscenes, and everything's amazing, and there's all these great environs that we're traveling to as all the art assets have been tweaked. No, I don't expect it will be like this. In fact, I'm kind of thinking if I were to play it once the patch goes through, which I do intend to, I might not even see any difference to how it was in the vanilla launch of the game. But yeah, those are the things that they're changing. Change the way some of the cameras work, and adding some new voiceover for key characters. Maybe this will make us care more in the Greatest Fear storyline. See, the whole point of this arc, yes, I said it's a filler arc, but the thing that it revolves around is we tell the Pale Triarch here's the worst thing that could possibly happen to us, and the game is supposed to make us feel bad when that thing actually does happen, and it's always fallen shy there. It's always been one of these big things that's made me think, oh god, Guild Wars 2 just introduces characters and kills them way too quick for me to care about them. Maybe so recording some of this new voiceover is trying to address that, but Bobby's been unfortunately a little bit non-specific there, which again makes me think this is going to be quite small. Then he goes into a lot of elaboration about what your character may have already done in terms of the storyline. So for me, my main has already finished the plot, and I don't care. Nothing's going to change. In fact, they finished the plot when these story steps were originally in the game. However, depending on where you are in the game right now, if you've been playing under the new structure, a lot of weird stuff can happen because order is changing and because a whole bunch of new things are coming in. So they explain, and you can check the link. I'm not going to read all of this verbatim because there is a lot of detail here. They explain precisely where you are in the story, how this will affect your character once the change goes through. I've got a bunch of characters that aren't even near that area of the personal story, and I'm just going to wait till the patch goes through, and then I'll probably play them through myself. He does clarify that if you played and you skip this step during this time after Feature Pack 2, there's no way you can reset your personal story progress. You just have to make another character, so don't think that. There is a question that says, what new voiceover is going into the game? He says, we wanted to update some key lines for several of the characters in the personal story, including those of Traherne, the Pale Tree, Ton, and Apatia. So Ton and Apatia are two of these characters that will die. In some cases, we're merely re-recording the existing lines to give a more appropriate delivery to match context. In other cases, they're actually rewriting character dialogue to better fit a particular scene. So it's still quite vague, but I guess these are some of the really dry lines that perhaps Trahan will be dealing that made some people end up hating him. And then lastly, there's a long post that explains exactly the order of the personal story after this update's gone through, with links on the wiki. So if you want more information, guys, there is a link down there, and that's pretty much it. Moving over to the Guild Wars 2 blogs for the last couple of things this video, they did put out a pretty decent summary of the happenings in Tyria over the past 2 years since the fall of Zhaitan. They, of course, have a big problem right now where they want players to know what is going on in Tyria the second Heart of Thorns releases. It's coming right out of the back of the Living World, and their player population has spiked massively since the announcement of this expansion. There are tons of people who never played Season 1 Living World, and never played Season 2 Living World, and even are faced with a paywall for one of them and no option to go back for Season 1. There is a huge audience of Guild Wars 2 players who don't know exactly where the Heart of Thorns story is right now, and I kind of feel like they need to release a really good, really decent trailer that also explains the story, perhaps with, like, essentially with the content of this blog, however voiced over. But this is one of the ways they're trying to address that problem. I don't think it's going to do anything too amazing when they release blogs like this, and they don't hard and fast say, hey, here's some news about Heart of Thorns. I think that mostly it's just going to wash over with people. But I would very much encourage you guys. I know a lot of you have been asking me to do summaries, and I've even expressed my own interest in doing summaries of the Living World for you, so that everyone can be caught up. If you want a hard, pretty quick and pretty comprehensive look at the key beats of the story that have happened since Zhaitan died, the blog they put out today, it would be natural for me to actually read this out verbatim. When they used to do stories and stuff, this isn't quite a story, though it's pretty story-ish, on their blog. I used to read them out for you guys. I'm not going to do it here, just because I feel like if I did it here, it would be like saying I'm never doing a summary of my own. However, right at the very end, I will read this. They talk a little bit after they've summarized the current story. They say kind of how we're leading into the next expansion, and so this, I think, is pretty interesting. So they say, use what you've got to get what you need. And they have this nice passage here where they say, the pact has fallen and its surviving soldiers are scattered and demoralized. Tilvari stand revealed as creatures of the jungle dragon, distrusted if not outright despised by their former allies. Morgemoth is manufacturing minions by the thousands to cement its hold on the Maguma before bursting out of the jungle's borders to overrun the surrounding regions. All of the traditional martial advantages lie on the enemy's side terrain, numbers, and momentum. Victory against the jungle dragon requires the iron will and supreme skill of a born leader. Superlative strategy and tactical brilliance on the battlefield, the ability to combine whatever and whomever is at your disposal into an effective fighting force, and the capability to make new allies, develop new skills, master new magic, and secure new resources. What else will it take to defeat Morgemoth and secure Tyria's future? And who has what it takes? The answers all lie in Heart of Thorns. So, it's kind of press releasey. I almost feel like they're just trying to push the mastery system a little bit there towards the end. But yeah, you know, one thing I found interesting from the demo, actually, is a statement in the small story we got to play where they talk about how Morgemoth again is taking bodies, just as we saw Zhaitan was collecting bodies, presumably to expand his own resources. We hadn't actually heard about Morgemoth doing something similar here. Perhaps that's going to be shared across all Elder Dragons. Again, I think the small little subtle things they talked to us about in that story demo there that people have been able to play at conventions and stuff are probably really key things for the story. So, and they kind of hint at it here as well, you know, how he's building and building and building he's going to be pushing out. I also find it kind of cool that they mentioned very clearly here it's going to take some kind of big supreme leader. Again, guys, you will notice, if you haven't seen the footage yet, when your character is speaking to other members of the pact, you are a complete boss. You absolutely feel like a leader. You're telling them what to do in a really satisfying way, in a way that they never hit in the personal story at launch. So it's very cool, and this idea of feeling like a leader, and these are your troops around you, seems to be a big emphasis for them in the X-Pack. That's pretty much it. There was another small blog which I'll tell you guys about now. Tomorrow there's going to be another Point of Interest live stream. Point of Interest is where they talk about a whole bunch of recently Heart of Thorns related stuff, as the Living World is obviously on hiatus. And so the next one they're going to be talking specifically about storytelling in Heart of Thorns. So we will hear more, I hope, about the kind of choices that they're going to be giving us, the length of the story, the way in particular I'm most interested that it will differ from the personal story at the launch of Guild Wars 2, plus much more, hopefully. So that should be very cool, and I'll have a summary for you guys on that tomorrow. plus whatever else comes out. So hopefully it should be good. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the footage in the background. My new graphics card game. So as you should have seen, I flashed the options up for a second there. I can, for the first time ever, I've been able to pure ultra everything on Guild Wars 2 except like player culling options, and it looks phenomenal, I think. Anyway, that was the run home from Ore back down to Lion's Arch, and was pretty fun. I haven't done that run for a while. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great evening, everyone.